What is happening, guys? Kadi Plays here, bringing you another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel video, and I'm so excited to be able to finally bring another tier list to the channel. We finally have an update here for Master Duel that released the new Battle Trajectory selection pack that introduced a few new strategies. We got the new Vaylantz strategy, we got the Scareclaw stuff, we got some new Pendulum support, just generic Pendulum support. So I'm really excited to be able to bring you guys a new tier list. Without further ado, I'm not going to waste anyone's time. Let's jump right on into the 5 categories we got. We got meta defining. These are going to be the decks that define the meta. That means when you are going on ladder or entering tournaments, which this is going to be a tournaments-based tier list because that's what I like to focus on. But it also applies to ladder, right? So if you're going into tournaments or on ladder, you're going to be seeing these decks a lot. These are going to be the decks that you need to know how to play against, the decks that you need to be prepared for. Tier 2, these are decks that are really, really strong, that can beat anything in the metagame, but they're not going to be seen at the same capacity and same amount as the meta-defining decks. Tier 3, these are decks that are really, really good, but not quite there. These are decks that can consistently top tournaments, but very rarely will win tournaments, and you're not going to see them very much. Rogue decks, these are decks that can sneak up on you and can sneak out some wins if you don't know what you're doing against them, or if they open really, really good, win the coin toss and just, God hand you, whatever it might be. And then finally, dude, why'd you craft that? Like, why are you wasting your resources? We don't have enough of them. And you really crafted Blue Eyes? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't spoil anything. Anyways, moving on to 8 Axis. This deck is Rogue. It's good in situations where your opponent doesn't know what's going on, and it just OTKs you. But it's not good in best of 3. It's not good with side deck. So, yeah, moving on. ABC. Guys, this deck sucks. This deck's terrible. But you're supposed to get therions in this selection pack. I stand by that, but we didn't. And I did remove it because I wanted to talk about how pissed I am that we did not get therions. Moving on. Emancipator. This deck performs really, really bad in tournaments. I think in the past month, sorry, I was looking at some Vaylantz stuff. In the past month, it's got 2 tournament tops. It's got a 2nd place and a top 16. That's not tier 3 numbers, but the deck's got tier 3 power, so I'm gonna stick with it. I got some faith. Yeah, I guess. Sure, yeah. Moving on. What is this? Altergeist. This deck kind of sucks. This deck was really good when some good players were playing it. But ever since then, the deck's really fallen off hard. Ever since Red Reboot came to 2, this deck's completely fallen off. And I don't know if it's because of Red Reboot, or it's because people just stopped playing it because Master Duel's in a really boring place right now. But it's not performing great, and it consistently falls on my tier list. Ignister. This is just a really well-rounded, consistent cyber strategy. You can play 15 plus hand traps, you can play efficient engine, and you always get the same thing out of this deck, and it's great. But its ceiling is kind of capped. It's very dependent on your opponent not being able to interrupt you at your specific choke points. So for that reason, and there's just a lot of counters for this deck, so I think it is a tier 3 deck, but not too much higher than that. Beat Troopers. I love Beat Troopers. I think this is great. I think Surgical Max C is insane. Retaliating C is a floodgate. It's really, really good. But the DPE hit, the Adventure hit, as I say in all my tier list videos, is really holding this deck back. Birds, Lear Lusk, Tri-Brigade. It's hard because this deck's great, but I don't think it's the best Tri-Brigade strategy. I think it's actually one of the worst Tri-Brigade strategies that's competitive. Yeah, I just think it loses too hard to Nibiru and Maxi, it's not able to play enough non-engine cards like hand traps, whereas pure Tri-Brigade or Zodiac Tri-Brigade can. So it just kind of creates this a little bit of a divide between what is tier 2 meta defining and what's tier 3 rogue. So I think this is a fine place for Lear Lusk right now. Blue Eyes, this deck's clearly meta defining, guys. It's the best deck in the game. It can play Branded Fusion, so clearly this deck is good. Just kidding, this deck sucks, and we all know it, and it's incredibly expensive for whatever reason. Sad. Cyber Dragon. I think Rogue's fine for it. I put this in Rogue last time, I'm pretty sure, and I think I stick by that. I don't think it does very good in tournaments. I don't think it has any tops, unless I'm missing something. Sorry about these ads, by the way. They're very frustrating. Yeah. I don't think we have any Cyber topping. We don't. Last month we did, but that doesn't really change anything. The deck still does what it does. It just doesn't do it very good. It just does it worse than all the other branded strategies, to be honest with you. But it can play second, and that's something to be said. So. And it also can steal your extra monsters on monsters, which is really cool. I mean steal, I mean link off with them. Dark Magician is right here with Blue Eyes. This deck is terrible. Yugi and Kaiba are really not that good duelists. Clearly, whoever plays Despia, and whoever, I don't know, is Despia in the anime? I have no idea. But whoever plays Despia, that's the real protagonist. Yeah, it's sad. But, it's what it is. Thunder Dragons is a rogue deck. I thought it was tier 3 for a while, but it's proven not to be. It can win tournaments, it can top tournaments, but it can't do it consistently enough to where it's like good. That's the biggest issue. This deck is not consistent. And the Despia stuff helps with that, the branded stuff helps, but it doesn't. Why would you play this over just pure branded Despia? Yeah, it's kind of the sad reality of things. DDD, ending on a Nibiru token is not very good, so sad. Despia's meta defining, guys. It breaks my heart that this deck is this good. Not because I don't like it, but because it just shows how weak of a meta we're in. Our metagame's really weak. We're in a really, really weak metagame, and I don't know. It's weird. We're in a really weird place where Despia's still really good for whatever reason, but it's getting old in Master Duel. It's been out for over 2 months now. 2 months now, and it's still the best deck. It's okay, where's the power creep at? But I don't know. It's interesting to see that this deck is still the most played deck. When its best card is Super Poly. I know I'm being a hater. This deck's really good. It's got a lot of really powerful cards, but yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird deck. It's just a weird deck to me. Dinos, I usually put this in tier 3, but I'm gonna put it in Rogue, and I know I'm gonna get hate in the comment section below, and bring it on. Come on, I'll debate you on Dinos. I think this deck's a tier 3 deck when people are consistently playing it, but people don't consistently play it. And I think that's got to be that you got to recognize that for something. Why do people not play this deck? Oh, well, because it's not consistent. It bricks 1 out of 3 games. I play this deck on ladder to just blow through ranks because it's such a fast deck and it can just OTK so easily. I always just go second with it, but it just bricks so much. And a deck like that, there's a reason it doesn't get played, right? So I'm going to leave it in Rogue, and I know I'm going to get hate for it, but it is what it is. I've accepted it at this point. Rocket Dragon Link, I'm going to put this in tier 2. I want to put this in tier 1 because it performs like a tier 1 deck almost every time you take it to a tournament. I do very well in tournaments with this, and a lot of my friends do very well with this in tournaments. But the problem is when you start playing this deck a lot, and a lot of people start playing this deck, it gets significantly worse because people start preparing for it, and that's not good. And when you're playing 60 card Dragon Link and your opponent's playing 60 card Dragon Link, your plays become a lot more linear, and they know what to ash a lot more consistently because they don't have to worry about grass. So for that reason, I think Dragon Link is kind of in this tier 2 purgatory where it can't get out of it. But we'll see as time goes on. Maybe the Bestial stuff will make this really good in 7 months when we get those cards. Heroes. I think Heroes are probably right here with DDD because they're inboards a Nibiru token. Yeah, sad, but it is what it is. Drytron's a tier 3 deck. It's kind of in the same place it's been ever since the Benton nerf. It's not consistent enough to be anything higher than tier 3, but it's not inconsistent enough or weak enough to be anything lower than tier 3. Its inboards are still insane. It can break boards. It can go first better than almost any deck in the game. If it draws fine, Yeah, Drytron's great. Earth Machine. This is right here. Right next to its buddy ABC. These decks were both... basically what happened was their dad, Therion King Regulus, went out to buy a pack of cigarettes or some milk, whatever you want to call it, and just never came home. And Konami abducted him and basically told him, you can't go home because we're not going to release you in Master Duel for whatever reason, even though it's time for you to come out in Master Duel. So yeah, these decks are kind of just depressed, and they're just chilling down here. because they need those. They need the therions, and when they get the therions, they'll be pseudo-competitive, but until then, they're going to stay in this dude, why'd you craft that category, because they're not good without them. For those of you who don't know, basically this card's an Omni Negate that can just summon itself out by equipping a Therion or a machine from your graveyard. So it just makes all the machine decks better because it just gives you an Omni Negate. And also the Therion cards are just insane. Like Endless Engine's really good. The Disc Coliseum's like insane. Lily's good. Bull's good. Yep, that's not Bull. This is Duke. Yule, whatever it's called. Bull's good. They're all really, really good cards. They're just not releasing him in Master Duel for whatever reason. So, yeah. Sad. Eldlich. Eldlich has been performing good, honestly, the past few weeks, but I think it's because people are bored. And when I say Eldlich, I'm saying Zombie World Eldlich and regular Eldlich. I'm putting those in the same category because they're virtually the same deck. They're not really the same deck, obviously. They have distinctions to them, but they operate very similarly, and they lose to the same thing. So I'm just going to put them in the same category for this tier list. It loses to too much. It's really bad in best of 3. It's really bad in side deck tournaments. It's really bad when it goes second and it doesn't open a board breaker or some way to crack a board. So, but it can play for a really long time. So that's something to be said for it. But overall, Eldlich is just not it right now. I played it in the Meta Weekly and I got top 8 with a branded Dogmatica Zombie World Eldlich variant. I played Zombie World on the main deck because you have to in those tournaments because there's no side deck. And I was just trolling. I wanted to play against Flunder and just troll some Flunder players because screw Flunder. But of course, when you prepare to play Flunder, like what are you going to play? Not Flunder, obviously. I just played against a bunch of Despia decks, and it's so hard to beat Despia because you do exactly what Despia does, just so much worse. But yeah, it's a struggle right now. Endymion. Dude, honestly, I want to put this in Dude, Why'd You Craft It? This deck's so expensive, and it's not good. Like, it's interesting. It's cool. It does a lot. It does a lot of really cool things. It can break boards like crazy. It can establish some crazy boards, but it's not consistent, and it's so expensive. So, like, I'm not saying you wasted your resources, but if you're trying to be competitive in tournaments, you probably shouldn't have crafted this. Flundereeze. I'm put Flundereeze as meta defining. I think this is a great deck. Obviously, it's it's a very fun deck. It's a very skillful deck. Normal summon Rabina is one of the hardest plays to calculate, and the fact that people are able to do it is really impressive. It's the best. Based on some of the comments I've seen, like this is like the best combo deck in the game. Like based on some of the ways people talk about this deck, it's the best combo deck in the game. It's the most skillful combo deck in the game. Sorry, I'm being sarcastic, but in all seriousness, like Flunder's insane. Like this deck it's oppressively good when it goes first, and if it goes second, it is able to open an evenly matched or Dark Ruler No More or pretty much any way to break your board. You're gonna just get blown out of the water by this deck. It's absolutely insane. There's argument to be said it's the best deck in the game, but when it becomes the best deck in the game, which I don't think it is, it ceases to be the best deck in the game because you start playing against a lot more Flunders, and the mirror match is just dreadful. It's just terrible. And everything that's good about Flunder is bad in the mirror match, right? So, yeah, there's that. Moving on, though, to Invoked. This is just a worse version of Branded Thunder Dragon, honestly. Like, Mechaba's good, but is it better than Colossus? I don't know. Is it better than Dragos Stapelia? I don't know. It can play for a while, and Meltdown's an insane card, but Branded also got Branded Lost, so it's hard to say this thing's anything more than Rogue right now. Evil Twin. I'm gonna say Evil Twin is probably top tier Rogue. It's a solid deck, it can play a lot of hand traps, and it's got good enough cards in its engine to be able to play off 1 or 2 cards and make enough disruptions to where your hand traps can carry you. The engine does enough to where the hand traps can just carry you. And that's really what this deck does. It doesn't do as much as the cyber strategies, but it can just play hand traps at the same capacity. So it's just inherently a little bit worse, in my opinion, than those decks, but it's still very solid. I did win a tournament a few weeks ago, so shout out to them for winning the tournament. It's Haas Draken, I think his name is. I won a tournament with that. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but very well played. Madolche, this deck is, I mean, we all know this deck's a rogue deck. It performs higher than a rogue deck because there's like 2 or 3 players that just consistently do really good. One of them is my teammate, shout out Victinium. He's a really good player. He's great with this deck, and he kind of, not single-handedly, but almost single-handedly carries this deck to, you know, tier 3 quote-unquote status on Master Duel meta. Like, we see Madolche here, tier 3, and they got 1, 2, 3, 4 tops by my, or no, I'm sorry, only, like, we got 3 tops by my teammate, 2 tops by this guy, 1 top by this guy. It's the same people just carrying this deck over and over again. But that doesn't mean it's not a tier 3 deck, or that doesn't mean it's like actually a tier 3 deck. That just means it's got like really good pilots. Marincess. Guys, I gotta give it up to Marincess. I've been hating on this deck since it came into the game because I didn't think it did anything. And it really doesn't, to be honest with you. It doesn't do that much. But what it does really, really well is it does enough. It does enough with its engine to let its hand traps carry it. So it does basically the same thing as Agnister, does the same thing as Evil Twin, but it just does it better. So kudos to them. It won a tournament, got its tournament win. It's been topping tournaments. I can't say anything other than it being like a tier 2, worst case scenario tier 3 deck, but I'm gonna go with tier 2. Numeron, this is just a worse version of 8-axis OTK, so yeah, cool. Orchist, this is an engine, not a deck, and it makes your deck worse when you play it. Sad, but yeah, we need some buffs, seriously. Guys, I'm gonna be bold here. I don't know if this is actually bold, but I'm gonna act like it's bold. I'm putting Pendulum Magician in tier 2. I think this deck is very, very, it's one of the best combo decks in the game, beside Dragons. And that's because we're getting a new card beyond the Pendulum, which is absolutely insane. It's a generic searcher for pendulums, and it also helps you break boards with its destruction effects. It was much needed for this deck, and we got Electromite in this. We got the FTK, so the Nightingale, Starving Venom thingy, whatever, FTK, absolutely insane. This deck, it can also like loop shifter, not infinitely, but it can loop shifter with Time Star Magician. Really, really good. There's a lot going for this deck. It's very underrated, and I'm going to say it shouldn't be underrated. It should be in tier 2. Phantom Knights, I think this is probably top of tier 2. I no longer think that this deck's meta defining. I think I overhyped it in the previous tier list because of how good it did on its on the release of Scales to 3. But since then it's performed good, but it loses so hard so much. It's not great going second. It really, people argue that it is, but it's not. It needs to open Droplet for it to really be good going second, for it to actually do a lot going second, or just open really, really good. And going first, its inboards lose really hard to sight, to like Called By, Droplet, stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't think it's as good as Despia, Flunder, and another few decks I'm gonna talk about. But Prank Kids, guys, I received some criticism for putting this deck in Rogue, but when I asked them and gave my reasonings, they didn't really respond because it's like, well, this deck sucks. It's not good. It does what Evil Twin, Agnister, Marincess, and Salamangreat does, but just does it worse. It's just a glorified bad engine deck. Not bad engine. I shouldn't say that. That's the wrong words. It's an efficient engine that doesn't end on enough if you don't have hand traps. The deck needs to end on 2 hand traps for it to be good. That's an issue. Its inboards are just not good. Its inboards are half as powerful as they were before, and even then its inboards weren't insane. They were good, but they weren't insane. What its inboard used to do was double Regeki you, or DPE plus Celestial in the grave, with maybe a Griffin or something. And that was good enough to at least survive the turn, then have an insane follow-up. But now, it just ends on half that. It either ends on only DPE, no Celestial, or it ends on 1 Butler Regeki. And that's not nearly as good. And its follow-up is just severely hurt. All around, this deck it's fallen off very hard. Salamangreat, guys, I despise playing against Salad. It is one of the most non-fun experiences I have in this game, playing against Salamangreat. But it's a meta-defining deck. It's been insane the past month and a half. It's been winning and topping tournaments like it's nobody's business. GG Tour, which was one of the biggest tournaments, one of the biggest cash prize tournaments hosted in Master Duel, had 3 Salads in the top 8. Like, it's insane. It's really, really good right now, and it's because it can play 15 to 20 hand traps and end on enough with its engine to just win games. It's insane. And it can play Floodgates, very similar to Marincess. It can play Floodgates. It can do all this stuff, but it's just performing better than Marincess and Agnister right now. Maybe we'll see over the course of the next month or so this swap. I could see that happening, but right now it's not. Right now it's Salad number 1, Marincess 2, Agnister 3. Yeah, that might be controversial though, so let me know what you guys think. Tryhard, Scareclaw, whatever it's called, this is the next meta-defining deck. I'm really glad to see that they released a really powerful deck in a selection pack. Obviously, I'm kidding. This deck is not a deck. It's not a real deck. It's cards that get played in other decks that make other decks somewhat better. It's an engine like Orcust that actually has the potential to make stuff better. So by that extension, it's Rogue. You can play the Lynx and Tri-Brigade, and they're really good in there. I highly recommend playing them. You can also play the Visit Starfrost and the other Scareclaw stuff in tier elements when the deck comes out in a few months. That's good. That's really good. But as a standalone deck, it's not great. You know, it's a weird control deck that doesn't do a lot. Yeah, it's really sad because this is like the best deck from the new set, and it's not good. It's depressing. The only reason it's in Rogue and not Dude, Why'd You Craft This is because its engine has applications and because you're not crafting it, you're opening packs for it. So, duh, I don't know. This is Vaylantz. This deck, it's kind of a gimmick deck, to be honest with you. I don't know exactly what all it does. I was just reading some of the cards and they weren't very impressive, but some of them are like, I was reading that some of them you have to flip a coin for to get effects. Other ones, like you move cards to different zones, kind of like Mech Knight. I don't know if it's exactly like Mech Knight, but I was reading them and it doesn't seem like it actually accomplishes anything. Maybe I'm missing something, but it just doesn't seem very good. And also I tried to research it from like TCG, and like there's really no information on this deck. Very little at least. So we'll see. Hopefully it does something, but it's a Dude, Why'd You Craft That? But again, you're not crafting it, you're pulling it. And that's kind of unfortunate. Yeah. Shout out Konami for releasing the best selection pack they ever released in Master Duel. Doesn't make me cry or anything. Winda and Shadalls. It's slightly better than Invoked, but there's no need to play this because Winda's not that good in the current format. Just branded fusion for frickin' Mirror Jade and you'll be fine. Like, don't make Winda, make Mirror Jade. You're good. But anyways. The 60 card list with Grass and Shadalls and Despy is really cool. I will say that. Sky Striker, I think this is top Rogue. I think it's a really good deck. I mean, it's not really good. It's pretty good. You know, 3 Widow Anchors is nice. The new update fixed the Shizuku multi-roll interaction during the end phase, which is nice. So it's going to be better technically because of those 2 things. So I think we could see it top of Rogue. And I know some really good players that have faith in this deck, and I think I'm kind of basing my opinion off of them, because if they're willing to invest in it and they're willing to play it, that just kind of tells me that either the rest of the meta sucks, or this, which, yes, it does, or this deck's actually got some potential. So I'm going to keep it at Rogue, but we could see this up to tier 3. I will say that. Speedroids, I mean, it's Speedroids, guys. What are you doing? Why are we crafting this? Because you didn't want to because you don't want to waste your Auroradon? That's fair. Spellbooks. This is right here with Orcust. This is an engine, not a deck, but not a good engine. I mean, obviously you didn't craft this. You pulled it out of a structure deck, so there's that. So category's kind of contradicting itself here, but the point stands that this deck's not very good. It's not a real deck. It's just an engine, and it can be played in Invoked. It can be played in Endymion. Those are clearly bangers of decks. And overall, it's just in a really tough spot. You know, I'd like to see some, maybe an update to this. Maybe some future support would be pretty cool. Spirals, I had this in tier 2 previously, but I'm going to put it in top of tier 3. It's been falling off really hard. I think because people are starting to realize that it's an insane combo deck that just loses really hard to a lot of cards. And itself. When we get Illusion of Chaos, this deck will be better. But at this point, we should have had Illusion of Chaos. It should be in the game by now based on release dates for TCG, OCG, and, of course, Master Duel. Like, we should have Illusion of Chaos, but we don't. I don't know if we're getting it or not. And if we don't get it, like, Spiral's going to be in this purgatory where it's not all it could be. So, really sad. Sword Soul. I actually think Sword Soul is probably the best deck in the game overall right now because Protos is insane. Token Collector does destroy this deck, but... Token Collector, you have to draw it, and you have to be siding. Or you have to be siding it, and then you have to draw it for it to be good. So, Sword Soul's got a lot going for it. Protoss is insane. Overall, the deck's great. Definitely meta-defining. Not too much to say about it. Tri-Brigade, this is going to be all the different Tri-Brigade variants, not birds. So it's going to be Zodiac Tri-Brigade, Pure Tri-Brigade, Branded Tri-Brigade. I kind of put them all in the same category because they all do very similar things. And I think they're all tier 2. I think the Adventure Zoo Tri-Brigade's probably the best, but there's an argument to be made for the branded stuff. But I think that's the best version, but I do think it's bottom of tier 2 because no one plays it. Like, nobody plays it at all, and I don't understand why, but, we will see as time goes on. It also just got a buff with the Link 3, Scareclaw, the Tri-Heart thing, and the Link 1 guy. They're buffs to Tri-Brigade, so that's important. Definitely play those in your deck if you're playing Tri-Brigade. Umi Control... I mean, it's probably down here. It's god-awful going second. It's bad in a meta where water monsters are prevalent, so Marincess is really good against it. Honestly, Sword Soul's pretty good against it because Moyi, you can go Moyi, Token. Yeah, I think that's what... Wait, yeah, you can go Moyi, Token, Dragite. Yeah, so, I don't know. Umi Control, it's a cool deck, but not very great. Virtual World... To be honest with you, I think I've been sleeping on Virtual World a little bit recently. This is a real deck. It can play the Adventure Engine very nicely. It can play Beatrice, which is one of the most broken cards that's ever been printed. That card's insane. And it can end on like Baron, Shinshin, Snow Engrave, or Scythe. It's great. It's really good. And it can also play great going second. It can play around floodgates, it can play around problematic cards very easily with its engine. The biggest issue is it's inconsistent. And VFD masked those problems because VFD came out consistently enough to where it didn't matter if it was bad in other games. But now its inboard's not good enough to justify, I think, it being played over some of the better stuff in the game because its inboard's not substantially better. But it is good. So you need to respect this deck. Zephyra, why'd you craft this? This is a 60 card pile Pendulum deck that's expensive as crap and you wasted your resources. I'm sorry if I hurt anyone's feelings with that. Just very angry at Zephyra. Zodiac. I think this is kind of like Evil Twins. I think it's probably better than Evil Twins because it's, gosh, the Mega Fortress, the Mega Clops thing is insane. Also, 6 Material Zeus is just ridiculous. The deck also plays like literally 25 hand traps, like something like that. It's absolutely insane. So you got to respect this deck, but it is very bad against Despia. Because like one good Mirror Jade Banish, one good Chimera Pop just ruins this deck's day. So anyways, that is going to do it for my tier list post-battle trajectory, post-November 8th, 2022 update for Master Duel. Sadly, there was not too much impact in my opinion on the metagame, but who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section, like, if I'm wrong about some of these new decks. And also let me know just in general, let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. I know you guys are going to tell me I got something wrong. So come on, bring it on. We'll see. But thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. I love doing these. These are a lot of fun. I also love interacting with everybody in the comments. In all seriousness, like sarcasm aside, I love interacting with everybody in the comments about like where my philosophy goes compared to yours. Because I love talking about this game. It's fun to discuss. It's fun to debate. And I can't wait for some of that in the comment section of this video. So please, if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed any of the content, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. I hit over 100 subscribers recently, and I think it's a large part because of these tier list videos. They get so much support, and it means the world to me, in all seriousness. So thank you guys for that. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and comment down below what videos you'd like to see in the future. Again, what I got right and what I got wrong. And honestly, anything you want. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have fun losing on ladder with these new decks. I know I will be. Peace.